A year ago. I feel like so many thoughts this week recently start with a year ago, right now. A year ago, this weekend, we went to our last restaurant inside. We went to a festival with tons of people gathering and live music. The events of the following week are ingrained in my brain, probably forever. Similar to other traumatic events where you remember exactly where you were and what you were doing. It seems dramatic to compare it to a 9/11 or the Challenger explosion, but it was such a dramatic change. And after a year with 500,000 Americans dead, maybe it's not such an inappropriate comparison. On Monday of that week, I was speaking with the family of John Waddell, whose memorial service was going to be live here in April. I actually uttered the words, "Oh, I don't know yet if this is a big deal. It may not be worse than the flu." On Tuesday, we had a board meeting. We agreed that we needed to keep a close eye on everything, but as of Tuesday, we were carrying on. On Wednesday, all hell broke loose. By mid-morning, the board and I had decided to have worship that week, but go online the following week. But by the end of the day, we had decided to close the campus entirely and go online that weekend. On Thursday, we notified everyone. We canceled community night. By Saturday, we had a meditation service to practice the technology. And we were live with our first online service that Sunday, a mere 4 days later. What a whirlwind it has been since then, and what abundance we have had. We have had more programming than we did when we were in person. We have had more people experiencing worship than we did when we were in person. We have more money coming in than when we were in person. We have more pastoral care for each other than when we were in person. We have more knowledge about how to connect and how to be radically inclusive than ever, I think, in the history of this congregation. This congregation has struggled together and persevered together and shown grace beyond belief. And while it is a difficult time, in many ways, we have thrived. We have done this despite the fact that our stewardship month was literally cut off midway last year. We have done this despite the fact that many of our members have struggled financially, having their jobs impacted, their health compromised, or their families affected. So we find ourselves a year later, no longer naive and looking forward. At the beginning of this program year, you may remember I said, planning is canceled. Planning is canceled. And then I said, and here's the plan. So planning is still canceled. We don't know so many things. We don't know how soon everyone will have the vaccine or how many people will opt to have it. We don't know whether vaccinated people can transmit the disease yet. We do not know this. We don't know about if and when our children can or will be vaccinated. We don't know when it will be safe to sing again. We don't know when the community positivity level of COVID will go down enough that it will be safe to gather. We hope it will be fall, but we just don't know enough yet. Planning is canceled. Now let's plan. So how are we going to be when we return? The only thing we know for certain is that it will be different. It will be changed forever. We know that we will need to be fully online from here on out. It is the new baseline for accessibility and spreading our vision beyond our physical boundaries. And not just the sermons videotaped like we were doing, but the whole experience, and an immersive experience where you're not just watching other people doing it, but you feel part of it. We know that it will be complicated. Many people are appreciating having meetings by Zoom. Many others can't wait to meet in person. There are going to be boundaries and preferences for us to navigate clearly and open-heartedly. We know that we will need technology improvements in our building, online, to be ready for full streaming, for video conferencing and meetings, training, equipment, resource, staff support. And here's the thing, we're not just any faith tradition. We are Unitarian Universalists. I don't say this to be trite, but as we go through all of these decisions, I expect us to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We are the people who notice, and we are the people who lead with love. So that means we are inherently intentional people. So we want to look at how we come back together and make sure that it is totally aligned with our vision. We want to recognize that part of our vision is to be radically inclusive. So we really need to think about what that means and how we incorporate that into our return plans. We want to think about what has been so abundant in this pandemic and how do we translate that into our return. We don't want this good crisis to go to waste. Starting this week, we're actually going to have special breakout rooms in the coffee hour to talk about what it is that we've appreciated during this time and that we want to carry forward so that we can look at this issue of inclusion when we return. We hope that you'll join us and give us your thoughts and your opinions. And we must be willing to look at the issues of justice in this. We must acknowledge that the vaccinations are going to those who have access to computers, who are disproportionately white, and who already have the privileges of staying at home for most part. We must plan with those who are the least of us in mind when we talk about gathering. Our threshold is not who can come back, but who do we want to make sure is back, and thinking about the whole community. The person who is most vulnerable, the person who has the least access, that's our threshold for when we think about gathering. If we think just about ourselves as individuals and don't think about the collective good, that within our congregation and in the wider Phoenix community, and honestly, the country and the world, we are living into are we living into our values, or are we just talking about them when it's convenient to us? See, being a Unitarian Universalist isn't always easy. We can't just say, oh, we're going to do something. We really need to be intentional and think about how it fits with our values. In our history and in our UUCP history, we have times that we can look back and see an inflection point, a time that we can say, yeah, we grabbed the opportunity and we made ourselves better. We were bold and courageous, and we dreamed big and creatively. I think we have the opportunity to make this that time. This month, we have sermons about community, about the collective versus the individual, and we about the legacy that our forebears brought to this congregation. I'm hoping that these all tie together into a really compelling picture for how this can be the time for us to be a spiritual community for this time. That we can use this as an opportunity to intentionally think about our values and our principles and practice living into them. Practice. This is an opportunity to practice being our best selves. And that we can advocate for others as much as we advocate for ourselves. I want us to look back a year from now, the way that we're looking back to last year, and say again, but in a different way, Look what we did. So this leads to the stewardship ask. We can't do this without each and every one of you, every single one of you. Every dollar you donate for the work of this congregation is important. We can't do everything we were doing when we were in person, plus everything that we were doing online, and do it all. We just don't have those resources. We can't. But you can help us so that we find the right balance, and together we can do more. Let me give you a few logistics about the stewardship campaign. We are deeply hoping that we will get 100% participation. This is not because of your money. It is because we need to know that you're there. We need to know that you are still committed to this congregation. We don't see you and hug you each week. And this is a way for you to say, yes, it's me. I am here. This is my community. I care. Through your pledge, you are telling us that. Whether that pledge is $100 or $100,000, you're saying, I'm here. All of the stewardship materials are online this year. For those who are not online, we are mailing materials, but you can do this today, tonight, right now. We're asking you to please help us so we don't have to spend more resources finding you. The link is right there in the chat. It's right at the front of our webpage. It's very easy to find. We are asking for a 3% increase in our budget this year. It's a very small one. We know it's a conservative ask for this because it is the pandemic. Secretly, I hope that you're going to surprise us and give a lot more. We are asking for 3%. That's a total of $639,000 in income from pledges. So it means if you pledge up to $1,000 yearly, we're asking for just $5 a month more. If you're up to $3,000 yearly, you can increase $10 more a month. If you pledge up to $8,000 a year, can you give just $20 more a month? You get the idea here. And we are doing something this year that hopefully will make next year easier for absolutely everyone. We're including a line on the pledge form that says that next year, if we don't hear from you, we will assume that you want to continue your pledge at the same rate. You don't have to. You can change your pledge at any point, up, down, whatever it is. But it means next year that we don't need to chase you down or give phone calls. And I know that you all will appreciate that as well. We are community. We are you anywhere. Whether we are in the building or in our homes, whether we are in Phoenix or Mexico or New Mexico or New York State, whether we are watching on a phone or a computer or a big screen TV. By the way, it freaks me out a little bit that some of you are watching me on a big screen TV, but I'm working to get over that. We are Unitarian Universalists, and we are practicing being more loving, more intentional, more justice-oriented, more ethical every single day. We are practicing what it is like to live in community, caring for one another, living through covenant. And if this is not a spiritual community for our times, I don't know what is. I think that this congregation has been planting the seeds, getting ready for a time just as this. It's laid a justice foundation for a time just as this. It has developed leaders for a time just as this. It has practiced being a more inclusive community for a time just as this. This congregation exists for times such as these, for nourishment, sustenance, and grounding to help us keep showing up to transform the world and live out our faith. We give to this congregation because we believe that a faith community can be science-based, fact-based, love-based. We give to this congregation because we want a world that looks more like what we are trying to be: inclusive, diverse, multi-generational, creative, loving. We give to this congregation because it has sustained us through this pandemic, strengthening connections, becoming a touchstone in our week, a source for inspiration and comfort. We give to this congregation because we believe in the work it is doing in Phoenix and that this work is worth doing. We give to this congregation because we believe that it is important for our children to learn how to discern their own faith right along with all of us who are doing the same, and to grow up knowing that they are worthy and perfect just how they are. We give to this congregation because many of us have found it to be a refuge from religions that preach hate, exclusion, fear, and oppression. And we're still just so delighted that we exist. We give to this congregation because although we do not believe in inherent sin, we know that we all need reminders for how to be good, kind, and just. Because we want a place whose main purpose is helping us to be the kind of humans that we want to be. And we give to this congregation because the music fills our souls, the stories inspire us, the words challenge us, and the people lift us up. We are a community that is thriving, that is creative, that is resilient. We are UU Anywhere. And we thank you for all of your support, for making us the very best that we can be. I love you.